In 15:15 to 16, and I'll let you look in your Bible at this. I'm not going to read everything out. In 15:15 to 16, Paul reminds them that he's called to preach the gospel among the Gentiles. Right? We already heard that in the greeting. He now reminds them again, I'm still here. I'm still the guy that God called to go and take this good news about Jesus Christ to the Gentiles. And so he highlights his career moving the gospel all the way around the Mediterranean and even as far north as present day, he almost reaches present day Serbia, right? In Illyricum, it was called. It's the southern part of the Balkans, but it's north of Macedonia on our map. Paul got a long way away from the Mediterranean there. And then, of course, he coursed east to Greece and down to the Mediterranean end of Greece, and has been everywhere. And so he's got this illustrious career, starting cold calling Gentiles in cities around the ancient Near East, right? But he's running out of space. And this one is worth reading because in the latter part of 15, and I'm going to need to move you again. In 15:22, is it, leading up to 23? Yes. He says in 20, it's always been my ambition to preach the gospel where Christ was not known, so that I'd not be building on someone else's foundation. Now, through this, he is trying to remind the Romans, I wasn't dissing you by not coming. My job is to start companies, not to build them, right? My job is to plant churches, not to water them. And so I haven't come to you not because you're not worth my time, but because somebody already planted you and God bless them, right? And so he reminds them of that. But then he says an amazing thing in 15:23. He's been at this maybe 15 years, right? He says, but now there's no more place for me to work in these regions. And since I've been longing for many years to visit you, I plan to do so on my way to Spain, where, by the way, nobody has planted yet. Do you see Paul's sense of vocation? I have a friend named Todd Bolsinger, and got to have breakfast with him the other day. He's a leadership guru, wrote a great book called Canoeing the Mountains about the struggle of leadership. And I'll just spend a second telling you why it's called Canoeing the Mountains. When Lewis and Clark took off on Jefferson's commission to go west, their map of the world had it that after the Missouri River, everything was downhill to the Pacific. Now, think in your mind of what stands between the Missouri River and the Pacific. It's not going to be a downhill canoe, because there are the highest mountains on the continent, right? And so he calls it canoeing the mountains because that's how leadership is in our time. The things we didn't expect, the obstacles that we didn't see coming, the things that seminary didn't prepare us for, or the discipleship in our church didn't prepare us for, are coming at us at breakneck speed. How do we do that? How do we adapt? And how do we change in ways that are faithful? Todd's a good guy to look up, but I was having breakfast with him, and he is the best guy I know at saying no to the right things. I won't have you raise your hands again, but I want you to think of the last time you said yes to something that you ought not have said yes to. Right? We get asked to do good things that aren't exactly what we're called to do all the time. Paul, instead of visiting maybe the most important metropolitan area in the world of his time, the capital city of the whole empire, instead of visiting there, he chose not to, and to keep doing these smaller cities, because his calling wasn't to water, it was to plant. I think there's something in that for us as we discern what's our work and what's not our work. Todd Bolsinger has a sharp edge there. I'm much too vague, but you probably have some variety of that issue in your life. Paul was good at knowing what he needed to do, knowing what he was called to do, and sticking to it. finally, after he says, I've run out of space, he says, so I got this little errand to run to Jerusalem. And the errand, by the way, is that he's been collecting money for the poorer churches of Jerusalem and Judea. As he's gone through Turkey and Greece, he's got this great collection now. It's a good thing he's not getting waylaid on the road by a bandit, right? Because he's got all this money and stuff to take back to the poorer churches, which, by the way, are mostly Jewish Christian. Do you notice how Paul is here illustrating what they're going through in Rome? How do we do this with one another? Well, he's had some trouble with Jewish Christians. They've accused him of being abandoning Moses' law too quickly. Paul has had to skirmish against some Jewish Christians. Nonetheless, he is raising funds among Gentile Christians to take to Jewish Christian communities. He drops it in here in passing, but somebody in the room is going to say, I get it. I get it, Paul. Right? Then he's going to go to Rome because he wants to get to Spain. Not because he wants to lavish in Roman Christianity. He wants to get to Spain, and you got to go through Rome to get to Spain, so he may as well stop by and see them.